Hey, what's going up? What's going on, everyone? It's Alex here with the Entrepreneurs Field Guide, and I got a little delayed today, and also my phone was dying. I had a whole, plan to. Give me one second while I'm gonna share this with people on my Facebook. Sorry about that. So here we are. I actually I had to go get some merchandise, and I just needed to go pick it up and then come do this video because I didn't have access to my inventory. So well, I did, but by extension. So what I did was actually just pick up a box of merchandise, and I'm just gonna do a walkthrough at the same time. I'm gonna be talking about some of the process that I've been through as far as trying to build my clothing brand. And my first clothing company was Third Day Fit, and it actually started as a merchandising spin-off of one of the characters I was developing, and the character was Nerdle, and Nerdle Squad eventually came from that. And I'll tell you a few things about that too later on. But it was pretty cool how the community started to show that support, and in turn, I wanted to start making merchandise because people were interested in the character, and I wasn't able to get the actual content out there as far as having like the books, or having the cartoon is really what I started and wanted to do with the character, originally being the books, and then a series of YouTube short films about the character and stuff like that, for kids. And what I did was actually start to develop t-shirts and branding the merchandise and stuff like that. And then as an offshoot of that, I ended up finding out that I actually liked designing clothing, and I liked not only designing, characters and things like that, for like cartoons and stuff, because that's also my background is graphic design, and also artistry of, cartooning and stuff like that. And I was already into, animating and stuff like that. So what I did was actually just started 20 comedy actual hashtag per is going to get a shirt of the size that they choose. So don't forget, when you leave a comment, feel free, please subscribe, share, like, and leave a comment if you want one of those shirts. If not, you can just leave a comment and just drop by and say hi and whatnot. But if you are here for a shirt, then by all means, grab that hashtag. And if you didn't read the post beforehand on that I had on Facebook, you can actually find a link to that, and you can find me under that's THEE Flunky. That's on Facebook, so you can find me there. And take a look at, see what's going on, see what I have going on. I'm very transparent about my lifestyle and the things I do. You can find a lot of content on health, mind, and also just body. I have a lot of content in regards to what I do every day as an entrepreneur and the things that I expect. And also, these videos, this is what it's about, just being 100% transparent. So that's where I'm at. So let me get it. And if you can't find that page, or let's say for instance you just don't want to navigate to there, if you actually go to theflunky.com, and that's THEFLUNKY.com, then you can have you can actually find my content, find my merchandise there too, as well as other information. I have my Twitter linked to that, so if you want to follow me on Twitter, or if you just want to message me and get in contact with me, you should be able to contact me through email on that website too. And there's also a Fun Fart Shop link that gets linked to another cool little free resource that you guys could access. Especially for you first timers that are just starting to make your small business grow. There's this resource that I utilize, which is called Square Up. And Square Up supplies you, if when you sign up, they'll supply you with a merchant, so you can do online transactions. The only thing is, they do have a couple of fees attached to it, but it's pretty standard industry wide what they charge. But look into it before I mean, and again, don't take my word for it, but it is what I use. I link my account to it. You need a bank account to link to that, so that way they can transfer funds to you. And if you're already familiar with the PayPal, how the PayPal works and all that stuff, that's another option for you. You can use it right on your phone. And if you want hand-to-hand transactions and stuff like that, or if you want to be able to link it to online so people can purchase, just make sure that when you do so, that you're also following up with those emails, because it's not like an Amazon affiliate distributor type of situation relationship. They're not going to they don't warehouse your stuff, so they don't hold your inventory. You do have to hold your own inventory and ship it out per order, so always keep that in mind. You do have to do a little bit more footwork, but at the end of the day, when you're small and you have to keep your operating costs low, it's a great option. So it's an option that I went with when I first started trying to sell t-shirts and all that. So think about it and consider it. So I'm gonna crack this open. I'm gonna show you what my first shirt design, one of the first shirt designs that I had. Let me cut this box open here. And I also have some other merchandise in here as well. Yeah, and by the way, I always do carry a little emergency knife. I always have one of those on me, because you never know. I mean, I'm one of those Bear Grylls fans. I don't know if that's going to harm me or benefit me, but always be prepared. So that's where I'm at. So opening now the little box of content that I have here. Let's get that all out of there. Oh, there we go. There goes my watch again. My watch is always on the fritz, whether it's my seatbelt, my watch going off, seatbelt, bring it in the car. So these are some hats. Now, I don't officially make these hats. I'm a reseller of these hats, and honestly, I just chose them because I like the style. When I was ordering these hats, I seen them, and they're pretty cool because they got like that gator pattern, so it's textured. Of course, it's faux. It's not real gator. These hats are going on my website. They're selling for. Oh, phone calls coming in. I should have put my stuff on airplane mode. So I have those. Those are the hats that I have, and then I have here my first shirts. Check this out. Now, a lot of the first shirts I made, and this is a good little tip for you guys, is the press-on, iron-on stuff. I was actually creating graphic designs and stuff like that on my desktop software, which when I first started was Paint. Believe it or not, it was Microsoft Paint, and that's what I was designing my first stuff with. And what I would do, I would actually make drawings, like hand drawn stuff, and I would actually scan them into my computer and upload them into Paint, and then I would trace over them to really make the line work more bold, and then I would just fill the line work little by little. It was a tedious process, and it took forever. So when I talk about having the right tools for the job, trust me, I've been there and I've done that. I've done it the hard way, plenty, and I found more efficient and easier ways to do it. You know, efficiency doesn't necessarily mean easier. It just means that you could, you know, get through the process a lot faster. So when I say easier, I mean you have to have the right tools to learn, right? Because easy has to do with not stressing yourself out. And efficiency obviously is an offshoot of that. So when I first started designing, my first shirt that I actually put into print was this green shirt. And when you put things into print, you have to take a couple of things into consideration. You have to consider the color, because they charge you per color, and you have to consider the sizing. So when I first started looking into get things printed, I didn't realize that, you know, when you're making shirts, there is a certain amount of sizes that you need to order, and you don't know what to order. You don't know, you know, who's gonna buy what size, and that's the hardest thing about distributing your own merchandise when it comes down to shirts, especially because it's not one size fit all, right? And that's the one thing that I really, you know, I took for granted, was the fact that I thought that I could just order whatever I wanted to, right? And there are popular sizes, you know. A lot of people, depending on the type of merchandise you're selling, if you're selling to like the youth, like the youth's day, you know, at least when you're selling to a market demographic of like, you know, 14 to like, you know, 18, a lot of those sizes could be very confusing. So you have to really know your market, who you're selling to, and what sizes to order. Because I used to order crazy stuff, like in you know, I thought that I would sell a lot more of the small sizes, so I put in a lot of orders of the small sizes, because I started off with like Nerdle and Friends and Nerdle Squad stuff, and this was my first print. You know, I call this Soft Eyes Nerdle, and the first print that I did of this shirt, I only ordered smalls, mediums, and then a couple of larges, because I didn't think that I didn't think that I would be selling to an older crowd, but the weird the weirdest thing happened, and that was I held on to more smalls and mediums, and I sold out all my large. So all my large sizes were gone, and I had to place another order, and I just had a bunch of smalls and mediums still around. So and that's the hard thing. You don't really know who's going to buy into the market until you test the waters. So if they give you an option to order 24 shirts, then by all means get yourself into a smaller debt with as far as holding on to inventory, because your turnover, you don't know what it's going to be. So order an equal amount, order 24 shirts. If you want to put a simple color to print, like this character was green, and I wanted to print a green shirt with just the eyes on it, and then the colors was something that I didn't even realize. Right, besides the sizing, when you go in to place an order for your shirts, they're going to ask you, what color shirt do you want, and then you can give them a design. Whatever the design is, if it has that color in it already, they'll give you recommendations on how to complement that design, right? And a good print shop will tell you, they'll walk with you hand in hand, and they'll be a good companion as far as like that ongoing process of going through those changes, of learning how to order, learning how to place orders, not only for sizing, but also for the colors. And then you start designing some work around the base colors. Like when I first went into the print shop, I wanted to print something on a white shirt. I wanted to print a green character on a white shirt, but my green character was Nerdle, which you can see here. There's already 3 colors right here, right? But he's green, and that 4th color was going to cost me about $2 extra per shirt. Now, for the print shop that I was using, that might have been that much of a charge, but when you're trying to print a couple hundred shirts, or even if you're trying to get into the realm of about 1,000 shirts, that adds up, and it's a lot of money. So to keep your costs low, you have to learn how to work around things like that. And the one little trick that I learned was to make your designs based off of the flat of the shirt, which is the color of the shirt, right? So that's your canvas. So design around that, especially if you're going to be making things like this that are just the eyes on it, and it's supposed to represent, like the shirt itself is supposed to represent the character, right? So that was one. That was my first print that I did in an actual shop. Now, I did do preliminary things, like I did sample work, I did promotional work, like when I did promotional events for like fashion shows, or if I did promotional events for different kind of like I did a couple of events I'm from Boston, so I went into the inner city Boston, and I went into Newbury, and I had some tables with a couple of other people who also design clothing and shirts and stuff like that, and we just did promotional events just to showcase our work and stuff like that. And it was great to be able to have a iron-on idea, or iron-on option, to be able to kind of get that out there, get those ideas out of your head and put them onto an actual canvas where people can appreciate, right? And I did that, and it was great, man. People used to love it. The only problem was I started getting into selling that quality of merchandise, right? And then I started to realize that what I did was, in my sampling, I would make the same shirt for myself, and I noticed that I'd put it through washes, I'll stretch it, I'll do everything to manipulate and kind of like test it, and I realized that it didn't stand up. There's still some people to this day that have some of my original work, and one of them is my goddaughter, my niece. She shows me all the time. She has this one shirt that I made like that, which was the Nerdle. I call it soft eyes. It has the big eyes in the front, but it was the vinyl iron-on stuff. And I can see all the cracks in it. I can see that the color's fading from the ink that was printed from the inkjet printer. It didn't run. It didn't it didn't really fall apart a tremendous amount, but you can tell that the quality is not there, not at least not the market quality that people are used to when you go into these stores and you buy t-shirts, graphic t-shirts, right? So that was another lesson that I learned in regards to the quality of work. There's some quality that is useful for prototypes, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's rubbish, or that it's not going to work out for future reference, but it has its place in time in the development process. So when I first started making the shirts, I used the prototyping techniques of just getting a plain shirt, going to a local craft store, getting plain shirts, and then just using other supplies like the iron-on vinyl stuff, or or and another thing too, use, and this is when I first started, this just came to mind. I was using I first started using fabric, like white shirts, and I would look for iron-on kits that were good for light colors or white shirts. And I got this stuff that really was just garbage. It's designed to be put on light fabric or white fabric, but it's ultimately, as far as quality wise, it does not hold up. It's not very saturated. It does not get very saturated when you print it. It looks very faded, and it's rubbish. So don't try to stay away from that, light fabric iron on stuff. What I went to and what I discovered, which was a blessing, was I found dark fabric iron on vinyl. And there are different qualities out there, but I definitely recommend going with dark fabric, even if you're going to be printing on or ironing on or putting it on white clothing. I would highly recommend you using dark fabric iron-on material. So that was one little golden nugget for you guys who are just starting out for making shirts. And the cool thing too is you can customize it however you want. You're not at the mercy of the print company. When I went to the print company for the first time, after working on my own and placing things wherever I wanted to on the canvas, which was my shirts, right? That prototyping process kind of got stifled because they give you a limited amount of shirt to work with, and they usually don't go above or below or off to the sides of that unless you want to use multiple printing screens, in which case they do charge you per design, per screen, per print, and all that stuff, and it gets expensive. It really does. I put myself through the process of doing some personal shirts in a small batch just to see how they came out, and it was way too expensive to reproduce on a mass scale. And when I say that, I mean I'm only placing, at this point in time, I'm only placing about, in order for about 100 shirts, and nobody wants to make, no print company wants to make, a bunch of screens for such a small yield, right? So it got really expensive, and I just kind of said no to that. And then I just kept going, within those bounds. I pretty much took my 8 by 11 paper that I was using to draw up the sketches and the preliminary artwork for it, and I'd place it and to see what I wanted to do. And I knew from there, they gave you about an extra couple of inches, all around as far as printing. Sorry about the thing. I'm actually in a parking lot, one of these strip malls here, or whatever you call them. And so when I did that, I didn't realize, that the costs involved was actually going to ultimately affect the art, right? And that's where entrepreneurship gets a little tricky, because you might feel like you're not making much progress, but in reality, when you're not making much progress, like for me, in an art sense, being able to decorate the shirt how I wanted to, I was actually making progress in a financial and more of a business sense, because I was learning that those limitations could be overcome at a cost, but what is the cost really going to be like, in the future? And that helps you better determine and understand, figures of your investment. And that's, there's valuable information that I learned through that, and that's why a lot of, especially t-shirt companies fail off the bat. It's because, they don't understand all these intricacies, and they're really not willing to work it out or work through it. And I'll be honest with you, I was one of them at first. I put a few shirts to print. Not only was, my order off as far as what people wanted to buy, like the sizing and all that stuff, still to this day, like I only print in limited batches when it comes down to anything over a double X. Anything over an XL. Because any print shop will tell you for some reason it's that much more expensive to make a shirt that's 2X plus, right? And most places won't make anything that's like beyond, a 4. Most places don't even, have access to something that's above 4X. It's like specialty order, type of shirts. And that goes into the fabric as well. Fabric counts for a lot. I don't like to print on shirts that I wouldn't wear. So I ran into this issue where the quality of the shirts is something that is kind of a trial and error. There's still stuff that I have in stock that I personally, they're great for graphic tees, because, it's just, if you're a graphic tee, head, then that the quality is off and on, like, because for graphic tees, it is what it is. Like, they try to keep the operating costs down because the shirts are so cheap. It's hard to compete. So with that, you kind of sacrifice the quality of material and fabric to give you a better quality, imagery and art that's expressed on the shirt. So that is what it is, and that kind of has its own little lane of advice and stuff like that you can walk down. But I'm going to keep it real basic and real simple. There's stock fabric, then there's like a premium fabric, and then you can go on to specialty fabrics and stuff. That's the quality of the shirts that you want to order and stuff. But it also depends on what it's for. I also not only did shirts to be bought, like graphic t-shirts to be bought, but I also did some designs for like kids parties and things like that. And for those cases, it's perfectly fine. Like I've had plenty of clients who are perfectly fine with paying a base price of like $2 or $3 per shirt, which is fine with them, because that quality for the convenience and the use of the shirts that I made was it was not going to be it didn't need to be durable in long term. And there was even times where I actually made custom t-shirts for like birthday parties and stuff like that, with all the kids' names on them, as well as like if it was like a soccer party or a football party, I would or baseball, I would put their numbers and then their names as like on the t-shirts, as if they were their own team's jerseys and stuff like that. And you have a lot of flexibility when it comes down to that. But ultimately, when it comes down to making money, it's difficult, because it's not about spending the least amount of money to gain the most amount of profit, right? Because you have to have quality to back it. You have to have good merchandise. You have to be willing to pay for that. In return, what you get is customer loyalty, because people, they gravitate towards the quality of your work. Not only your artwork, but also not only the brand and the artwork, but also the quality of the material that you're using. Some of it, when you get into the higher levels of manufacturing clothing, of course, it becomes proprietary to your designs, right? So the quality of the fabric that you choose is made specifically for your brand, right? Then you get up into the marks like Hanes. They manufacture their own fabrics and stuff like that, and different qualities of such, depending on the type of market they're trying to get to or market to. So with me, and with a lot of people who are first starting out, you don't have that luxury, for sure. You just have what's given, and whatever's given is the most common that's at the print shop. And I remember when I was first starting out, it was Hanes and Gildan, and then there was a couple of other brands, like you can get Fruit of the Loom was another option. So there's a few different base options that you can get. And printing these shirts can cost you anywhere, depending on the print company and how they're willing to work with you. They can cost you anywhere from $6 to $8, all the way up to about 12 to 14, sometimes a little bit more. I've only seen them go up to about $14, $15 a shirt, and that's your cost. So when I say that, that's not what I'm selling them for. That's my cost. That's what I have to pay to get a specific design done on any given shirt. And with that, you kind of ask yourself, damn, if I want to place an order not only for one design, but I have, let's say, 6 designs, and I want to put them all in, and I need 100 shirts each at base, right? And bare minimum is 100 shirts each. Then that's going to cost you a pretty damn penny. And you're going to be sitting on that for a little bit, not knowing whether or not they're going to sell. I'm still sitting on inventory. Some shirts that I ordered, about a year ago, still sitting on that inventory today, because it won't sell, right? That's why you see a lot of this clothing go on clearance and stuff like that, especially if you have a consignment deal with a local boutique or something like that. Which is another topic of interest for me, is you have these consignment deals with these local boutiques, and they won't pay for your shirts, which is it kind of sucks, but it's a good thing too, because that's part of the contract to get you into their store, to kind of get your products circulating and stuff like that. But if your merchandise is in a boutique, and and they can't sell it, and you're kind of stuck, and you're kind of put in a position where you have to receive it, it's a horrible feeling to have. So, you kind of just agree that, hey, why don't you just liquidate it, sell it at a discount. And guess what? Guess who gets that profit? The boutique. You get no money. They put say for instance, as a consignment deal, you pay $8 a shirt, and you're selling your shirts for about let's say about $15, right? That's $7 profit. How much of that is going to you? Most likely it's only like maybe, depending on the boutique, they might split that profit 50-50, or they might take the lion's share and they might say, okay, well, we'll give you X amount of dollars, right? Now, this is just strictly consignment based off of, holding inventory. So if you're giving them your shirts, say I give them 100 shirts, right? And out of those 100 shirts, I spent, let's say about $80, right? So out of those 100, what am I doing? My math is all off. Let's not go into numbers right now. So let's say I give them 100 shirts. I paid $80 each, right? So out of those 100 shirts, I've spent $800, right? And I'm hoping to sell them for at least double that. That way I can cover, my work, my time, and all that stuff, right? So I want to sell them for $16 an each. With the boutique, say they carry clothing that they're selling graphic tees for $12. How are you going to compete and get your lion's share of your profit when the boutique is already selling shirts at $12? So now you got to lower your price to compete with the boutique's price, right? So the consignment deal says that, you have to compete with their price, so you have to sell for $12 too. Okay, fine. Then you take that loss, right? So now you're only at a $4 profit margin. So that $4 has to be split between you and the boutique. And now, per shirt, the boutique is not going to sit on those shirts for, $4 each. They're going to try to get them as cheap as possible. And they're going to, pretty much sell those shirts as if they're going to try to maximize their profits, right? Because they're paying rent, they're paying overhead, they're paying all these things, and they get the lion's share. So at the end of the day, you get 25% of that profit, they get the 75%. So that's $3 to them, $1 to you, $1 to you. Now the benefit is you get to market your merchandise, and that's what a lot of people don't understand as far as investing in yourself, investing in the brand. Is you might not get all the profit you want, but at least you get the exposure, and that's what it's all about. So if you're going into do shirt printing and all that stuff, understand that there's a lot of particulars that you have to get into. There's a lot of things you have to account for, and you have to be willing to hustle. You have to be willing to jump from spot to spot and figure out what's going to work, what's not going to work. If you're selling shirts in more of a low income area, right, where they have shirts that come in brand new merchandise and they're selling for $5, whether they're graphic tees or not, they're still going to base that price. They're still going to base their profit margin off that price, right? So the common shirt sells for $5. You paid $8 for your merchandise. Now you want to sell it in that store. You best believe it better be specialty merchandise. And if it's not, and it's just a common graphic tee, then don't waste that store owner's time. Don't waste your valuable time trying to negotiate pricing and trying to get them to change their market strategy, right? Because their market strategy is quick turnover. That's why they sell their clothes for so cheap, right? You can't compete with that when you're first starting out. You're not mass producing. Those are for people who are mass producing. Those are a lot of the times where you're able, as a store owner, you don't get consignment deals. You just buy straight factory direct from these warehouses in China, where you buy these shirts for $1, $2 a piece, right? And then you're able to resell them for $5. That's how it works, right? Well, when you're a small designer, you need to consider yourself that, a small graphic designer who makes t-shirts. So you have to sell them hand to hand. And that's how you make the most profit, but that's how you do the most work. You want to do less work? Then go and get yourself a consignment deal and have somebody else house your inventory, have somebody else tag and sell your inventory for you, and you make way less profit. But it's a trade-off, because you have to do less work, less footwork to sell your materials, to sell your products, right? And you don't have to do as much marketing, right? So of course you're going to take less of the lion's share because you're doing less of the work. So that's how it is. But if you want to maximize your profit and put more into your pocket, you're going to have to do a little bit more footwork and go around, and if you really want to, instead of doing those types of consignment deals where you just give free inventory to a store, make sure that you're trying to sell them. Make sure that you're trying to sell them on your profit up front. So you sell them. If you buy them for 8, you try to sell them for $10 each, and you make sure that you pre-tag them. Make sure that you have SKUs already in place. Make sure you invest in that type of market. Make sure your tags, are your own tags. In other words, like here I have these tag lists. I didn't tag these ones, but right here would be your own print. You can screen print over this. You can easily take your brand and your tag and everything else that comes along with care instructions and print that right on your shirt yourself, right? Or you can have the print company do that for you. And another thing too is you can actually, sometimes print companies will also do tagging, as far as retail tagging and SKUs and stuff like that. And if you have a product that's going to be sold online, and you want to be able to keep track of the inventory, and also be able to do more efficient consignment deals with bigger companies and distributions and stuff like that, then you're going to have to buy into SKUs. I mean, you can buy a lot of SKUs. You can buy like 100 SKUs for, I think it's like, I don't know, something like $100 or something like that. I mean, it's not too expensive. But each one of those SKUs can go towards each particular merchandise. And this goes across the board. This is not just for shirts. This is for anything that you're selling, all products. So take that into consideration too. Another thing, where was I at? Nah, forget it. We'll just, I won't dig too deep into that. But yeah, so you got the SKU, you got the merchandise, you got all that stuff in consignment deal. So we get a little bit of that business aspect out of the way, right? And what we're left with is just the marketing for your own brand, right? And you're left with like something like, say for instance, Third Day Fit. When I was marketing that, I was also marketing, these shirts under Third Day Fit. And the strangest thing about that was I always felt like a little bit of a con, because that material, that type of subject matter was not appropriate for the brand that I wanted to create. The brand for Third Day Fit was more matured. It was more athletic wear, and this is really where a lot of people were starting to get into athletic wear and all that stuff. And I really wanted to produce athletic wear. Third Day Fit, I think I started Third Day Fit like something like 6 years ago or something crazy like that. And it was again when I was in school, when I was going to school for business management and entrepreneurship. I actually started Third Day Fit as a project in college. So that was actually my marketing class that I actually did that. I had a business plan. I had a business business model and all that stuff, around that. Anything from consumers to employees to investors and all that stuff. I had a whole profile all worked out as far as like that brand itself, a Third Day Fit. But it was a very mature brand, and I brought this immaturity into it, not meaning that it's a negative thing. Like, this is still like a cool design. A lot of people who tell me it reminds them of like something like a Sesame Street type thing, or like like you see those a lot of those characters with the eyes and stuff like that. And I wanted to do something that was very, very much like a cornerstone in starting with t-shirts for that character. And that's what I did. I started with the eyes because I thought that would be very attractive, but it wasn't for the colors didn't vibe with Third Day Fit. Although Third Day Fit is green, black, and white, that is too bright. It's too things. So I wanted earthy things. And when I first designed Third Day Fit, as far as part of the business model, I wanted to do things that were very eco-friendly. I wanted to do recycled materials. I wanted to do, I was looking into recycled denim before it became a big thing. Again, that was about 5-6 years. I would say about 6 years ago. So roughly about 6 years ago. And it was really difficult and really expensive. I had this whole model of being able to collect, used denim that people can come in and they automatically get a store credit for, kind of like buying all that used denim up and then taking that and recycling that and using those recycled materials and sending them out to a manufacturer to be able to process them. And it was one manufacturer, one processor, another manufacturer. It was too many things that had to connect in a proper way, and it cost too much money. So I kind of slowed down, and I got kind of dismayed, and I kind of just backed off from Third Day Fit a little bit, and I focused more on the t-shirts. And I thought, hey, well, what can I do? Right? What can I do now that's going to not only help me grow, in a business sense, but is also going to help me grow, my brand, which is me as, my S.A. Rua brand as an enterprise, And that is when I discovered the offshoot to that. The first one that I started was Straight Shop. And then Straight Shop didn't really vibe with me, and then I started digging into more like names, and I started to just trying to figure out where this fit, and I couldn't figure anything out. So I let it kind of like simmer for a little while, and then I came up with this idea of fun fart, which was, it had to do with a lot of the characters that I was making behind the scenes as far as my development process and my art. I was making characters which I call them death pets. They were death pets, and I actually did the whole process of copywriting. That's another one that I got to get into: copywriting, trademarking, and what was another one? Branding in general, just registering and all that. The copywriting process is so simple. It really is very basic. Only images, no letters, and if the letters are part of the image, then you're okay to go. But it has to be an artistic expression of the lettering. It can't be a logo, right? Because the logo itself is a trademark, and that's completely different. And you have to go through a whole process of that. And another thing, quick little notice about the trademark is intent to trademark, right? You have this option where you don't necessarily have to go through the whole process of trademarking. You can actually just trademark your symbol as a copyright/trademark with the intent to use as a trademark, and that'll cover you for a little bit. And you can actually submit an application, and during that process of submitting that application, you're covered, very minimalistically, but you're still covered legally. So if somebody ever tries to infringe upon that copyright or that trademark, you're covered, right? And another thing too about the copywriting, the copywriting is very simple. It's pretty cool too. You can actually take a file, like say for instance, if you're working on a project, give you an example, project Death Pets. Death Pets is, it was supposed to be a series of comics, and what I did was I designed the characters first, and that character design, the preliminary design, had to do with all the characters that I could possibly come up with all at once, and then you book them all together. You create like a portfolio, and you put all those images together, and you submit those images under the trademark of Death Pets per se, right? And even if you come up with more characters and more designs and stuff like that, you don't have to submit one by one, because I believe it's like $35 per submission, right? But I think, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if they limit you now because it's more digital, but I don't know what the limit is. I don't even think there is a limit. I think it's just something that, once you submit, it's $35 per submission, and that covers that amount of work that you submit. And again, that's per submission. So if you only have 100 images that you want to trademark, right off the bat, it'll cost you the same amount for that one submission of 100, images versus submitting one. Right? So you can do back to back, 100 images, and then you forgot one, and then you want to upload that one. It's still going to cost you $35 or something. I think it's about $35. I think it's still $35 per submission, right? So trademarking, very important, because you want to cover your butt. You don't want anybody to be able to use, especially in this, this day of online, in digitalization and all that stuff. Like, it's very easy to just, copy paste, and if somebody starts using your work without you acknowledging it or giving permission to, it gives you full right to pursue them in any legal court within the United States. Now, this is the problem with copywriting overseas, is this is why you have a lot of these politicians lobbying to kind of close that loophole where somebody can't, where somebody can take my work that I create here in the United States that's trademarked here, or it's copyrighted here, and they can use it in somewhere in Asia or China or someplace in Europe, and they can use it without my permission, unless I choose to pursue them and go overseas to pursue them and do it, and most of the time nobody has the money to do that. Nobody has the money to go and stay and start litigation outside of the country and stuff like that. So, unless you're a corporation, that's just kind of one thing that you just kind of have to run into, right? People do it all the time. You see it online all the time. A lot of these social media things, they take whatever the work is and they create a meme out of it or whatever, and they become, superheroes on their own network or whatever it is. So for whatever it's worth, that's just something that's going to happen. Now, do you have rights? Of course you have rights. You can always send them a cease and desist and tell them, hey, you know what, back off. This is my, my original work, and I don't want anybody else other than me or my company using that original work. And sometimes that does work, but other ways, and vice versa too. You might create something that you think is trademarked strictly for you, and just to realize that somebody or some company out there has a similar product and or a similar logo or a similar icon or whatever it is, and you might get that cease and desist letter. So it's kind of like it's very confusing. The whole trademarking, copywriting, registration, all that stuff it can get very confusing. So one recommendation is, if you really are madly in love with a brand or a trademark or a copyright, whatever it is, or character or icon, whatever you have that you've created that you feel like is strictly original to you, then by all means pursue it, and make sure you get advice from a trademark attorney or copyright what do you call that? I think it's the copyright attorney, maybe too. I think they like one and the same. Either way, it works for written work, which is another thing that I'm familiar with, and it works with with images. So, with that being said, creating work like this, it sounds simple and it sounds easy to do, but in reality, I learned all of this during the process. So this is why I absolutely love entrepreneurship, because you put yourself in that position to learn, and you learn you hardly learn a whole lot. You just have to be resilient. You have to roll with the punches, and you can't think that failure comes in the form of one product not selling. You can't think that failure comes in the form of placing an order for 1,000 t-shirts of any one kind and then nobody likes it, right? You can't think that that's the failure, because that's the lesson learned. That's the most valuable thing. People pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to have people learn this stuff for them, to have marketers know what they should and should not invest their time and money into, and if you don't have that, then you're gonna have to learn it the hard way, like I did. I had to learn things, all of this stuff the hard way, and I'm still learning, and I'm definitely not anywhere close to where I want to be as far as what I want to know. But this is the biggest difference between being a small business and turning into a corporation or running an enterprise. There's a lot that goes into it, and these are just small little stepping stones that kind of help you graduate into that process. But you cannot be afraid to just jump into it. And this is what they talk about, that fear of failure is just limiting yourself to thinking that this one thing won't work, so therefore nothing else will. And that's not true. Again, I started this with the whole mastermind plan, and I devoted a lot of time and energy over the years pouring my thoughts and my ideas into Third Day Fit, which is something that didn't end up working out. And look at now, it's dwindled down to just simply making graphic t-shirts. And I'm not undermining my own work, but that's just one. And let me get some of these other ones too. It's not just simply dwindling down to that. Here's another one that I used as the same concept. This one here, I probably should have did in this design. I probably should have made a little something, some kind of subliminal with that mouth. I didn't realize it now, but it kind of looks like a C-, right? So maybe we just do that, C-. A little below average, right? For us entrepreneurs out there, especially when they tell you got dyslexia and you're not gonna make it anywhere because you're a troublemaker and a big mouth. You express your opinions too much, right? That's what I was told all through school. But I turned out as a pretty damn good person in general. I'm very giving, very loving, and I have tons of energy to give to people. Maybe I just had to get that out of my system early. Here's another one too that I kind of abide by. Get rich international, not domestic. It's a very important way to look at business opportunity. Is you're really not going to get rich in the way that you want or the way that you consider. You're not going to be able to strictly to live that fabulous lifestyle that all of us entrepreneurs have this idea of really putting ourselves on that level and developing that product or that service that becomes service that we can service to millions of people, right? And we can reap those benefits or rake those benefits in as part of that, but we can't. It's impossible. Trust me when I say this. Is you have to be able to reach those millions of people first. And a lot of us small-time entrepreneurs and small business people, we don't have those resources to get to that point. We don't have the same resources as a Fortune 500 company. We don't have, as a corporation, we don't have those resources that a lot of these, marketing firms have, that they have, tons of lawyers and psychologists and, and all these other, how can I say, all these other assets available to them, not including money, because obviously money just buys you the ease of the process, but just to have the exposure, just to have the quality of the people to work for you or work around you, that have all of this knowledge. We're not really exposed to it, so we kind of have to take it one punch at a time, and kind of roll with those punches and find out which ones knock us down and which ones knock us out, which ones do we recover from right away, which ones does it take longer to recover from. So either way, we have to go through these processes and figure it out. So the coloring and all that stuff, of course, there's some stuff that went into this. Here's a series here that I started, which I thought was pretty funny, because I remember growing up, we used to say this saying, which was sofa king, and then whatever we would interject into the ending of it. Now, the most common one I'm not gonna repeat because I'm gonna be a little more sensitive about that. But so fucking blank, right? So I thought it would be funny to just have a series of characters that have their own personality attached to it. Like this one here says so fucking mellow. So marshmallow, so fucking mellow. I probably should have did his eyes a little bit more of like a slant, kind of like a stoner type thing. I thought that would be pretty funny, but instead I wanted to do it something a little bit more childish and playful. That way it didn't come across as too harsh. But the irony in that was that I started to sell to high school kids, and they would buy these shirts and they'd wear them to school, and then they would tell me after that they would be sent home because they were wearing these shirts that said so fucking whatever the slogan was in the little hyphen or dash. And I was taken aback. I was like, holy crap. And it was like very disconcerting to me because that's not at all what I was aiming to do. That's just something that happened. And I guess that was just like I played into the playfulness of that demographic, right? Which was to be expressive like that, to be silly and expressive. And that's what I wanted to come through in the shirts. But I guess it kind of worked too well because these kids were getting sent home or told to go change their shirts, and it kind of bugged me because none of my shirts have that type of connotation. Now somebody can take it out of context and say, well, it's like you trying to say so so fucking is obviously so F word or so F bomb, and yeah, of course that in itself, but it kind of plays on that expression, that abstraction of what that word is supposed to be, and it doesn't actually say it. So in another point of it was like, oh nice, and see an Audi R8, sweet. Is that an R8? I think so. Anyway, it plays into that, that playfulness of what a graphic t-shirt is supposed to be. It's supposed to express something whimsical. It's supposed to express something gritty, or it's supposed to express some form of an artistic perspective or point of view. That that's the whole point of wearing graphic t-shirts, is that it's supposed to express a little piece of your humor or your personality. And I think the people that fell into it loved it. And the other aspect of that series there, the So Fucking series, was that a lot of people, believe it or not, a lot of people never heard that before. And when they were told after wearing that shirt, when they were told to kind of piece it together, when it clicked, I got those phone calls or those emails or those messages saying, hey, did you know your word that when you put that, and I just started laughing. Like I'd play all innocent and I'd be like, oh wow, yeah, you're right. And sometimes I just tell them straight up, yeah, it's exactly what what it was meant to do. It was supposed to, it's wordplay, and it's supposed to make you feel that way. And it was just another level of the artistic approach of being able to design something that after the fact, after the purchase, after the initial view, the initial like, after seeing it for the first time, and you kind of you're like, oh, Sofa King, you think that it's like, oh well, maybe it's just a brand about being lazy and hanging out on the couch or being a couch potato or whatever, etc. When you find out that it has that slogan attached to it, and you're like, oh wow, and then it sinks in further to become something humorous to you. That's what a shirt is supposed to do. That's what a graphic t-shirt, in my opinion, is supposed to do. It's supposed to unlock that that creative aspect of people who wear these things, who wear graphic t-shirts, and who are very much into them. And another thing too, which I thought was pretty funny, when I went to go look up as far as the branding wise for the Sofa King series, to try to trademark it as a logo, I actually started to discover that people there's this actually one person that I found out through an interaction that I had at a nightclub after an event, a promotional event for the shirts. I went to a nightclub and I was wearing, me and my crew were all wearing the shirts, and somebody seen them. They came out to us. They're like, hey, are you guys with do you guys represent some some Rocky? Actually, I need to look into it because I don't think it was ASAP Rocky. There's some other rapper that went by the name Rocky or something like that. Rocky. I forget. Either way, we were approached by somebody who actually followed this rapper, and he was like kind of an underground rapper. And I looked into his work, and I was like, holy shit! Like he uses, I guess, Sofa King as a thing. But I think the way he uses it is like that lazy mentality, of getting high and being on the couch and being a couch potato type thing, of being a stoner. And that's all well and good. It's fine because that's part of the community. That's what it's about. And the way I use the shirt is a little different. So anyway, it was a little disconcerting. So those kind of 2 points of views that I was like, damn, I thought I was being like original, or at least being a little bit more original, with attaching that slogan or that that wordplay to my shirts, because I wanted to do a whole series of it. And I'm still thinking about it. I'm still processing, and I probably will, because the way I do it, obviously it hasn't been done. And another thing too, there was another company that was actually called Sofa King. Sofa King. So it's actually a company that sold furniture, that apparently delivered at low cost and quite far. And anyway, I thought that was interesting too, because they actually used the word Sofa King as their trademark, as part of their. I don't even think it was trademark. And again, intent to use, right? Intent to use, and that's how they displayed it. So that was another thing. Now it's not the same. The cool thing about doing trademarks is if it's not in the same industry, you do have rights to pursue your trademark for your industry. In my case, it was for clothing and apparel, so I have the rights to distribute that. Same thing with that Rocky dude, with the rapper. His industry is the entertainment industry in forms of rapping and distributing music and stuff like that. Now, you can kind of get into a legal battle when it comes down to merchandising it, because merchandising is a spin-off of the industry itself, right? It's kind of where industry meets industry, like the clothing industry meets the entertainment industry, right? And that could be in turn taken out of context and stuff like that. But that's kind of like, that's for later on. But these are things that I've kind of learned along the way to not really worry too much about, and just kind of go with my flow, just go with my own thing, stay in my own lane, and kind of focus on what I'm doing. Because the worst thing that could possibly happen is you get a cease and desist letter, and then you just have to stop, or and just acknowledge that maybe you were at fault for whatever reason, and unless you want to go through the legal battle, take it. Anyway, let's move on. I want to show you guys first, because I showed you the Sofa King, but this was my very first. I was working at a big box retail store, and I was selling blinds. I was cutting, selling, and special ordering blinds for customers and stuff like that. And one day I just got so damn bored of my job, and I'm always a very charismatic person, but I was just sitting there at the desk, and I was talking to one of my associates that I was there. It was kind of a downtime, and we were just talking. I was telling him that I had this thing that I was doing, and I was this is when I was in school, and I was like I've been trying to do this thing. I've been practicing writing. I've been trying to do writing, and I've been trying to make that happen. But I'm also like, I do graphic design and stuff, and I always liked working with computers, and I always liked drawing, and and he was like, oh well, why don't you he was asking me for the longest time to draw him some stuff for this comic book that he was working on. And I was like, I don't know, man. All right, I'll draw you something real quick. He's like, yeah, just let me see, like anything, like just draw something up real quick. And this is what I drew, and what I wrote under it was not the original wording that you see here. This one here This one says so fucking uh, bored. I think this one says. Yeah, this one says so fucking bored. And that's when I originally came up with the concept. Is that I was working at a big box store and I was, selling those blinds, and I was about to go on break. It was about 5 minutes up until my break, and I was like, whatever. And we had this discussion. We were talking about. I was like, you know what? Fine. I'll draw you something. You want me to draw you something? Here, I'll draw a break sign. That way, people can stop complaining that they don't know where we went, because that was a big thing too in the big box stores. Like, when people go on breaks, you don't know, as a consumer, as a customer, you don't know where the heck they've gone to you. They've disappeared, or they just avoiding you, right? So we used to get flack from the management, the upper management, that always told us, like, listen, you have to let me know when you're going on break and all this and that. Even if it's pre-scheduled and all that stuff, you still have to let me know. That way I can, at least notify the customers, and I'm not going. And it's like, all right, fine, let's let the upper management know that we're going on break. And I hand drew with a permanent marker, and under it, it was the same layout as far as the graphic design itself. It was the bear, the panda here, with the knuckles taped up, and under it, it said break time. That was my original design for this shirt. So right where this has the so fucking slogan down here, it was originally actually break time. And then I just took that design and I digitized it, and I was like, you know what? Because I got so much, like, so many people were like into it. They seen the break time, they thought it was hilarious, and they were actually like, I remember, like, after I came back from my break, there were people talking about it. Even it got up to the upper management. It was like, well, I guess I know that you guys took your break because I seen the little grumpy bear that you drew with break time under it, and it got a bunch of laughs, and that's where I was like, holy crap, I think I'm onto something. And that's when I started to really try to figure out what I wanted to do as far as that design, and I used it. I took that design from that scenario and I applied the so fucking thing to it, and then I put so fucking bored. I had one more so fucking slogan attached to it. It was so fucking I think it was hungry or something like that. I think that was the original one. So fucking hungry, and I think a couple of people might have that shirt because that was one of my first prints of that shirt. And then when I went into reprint, I printed it again on white shirt, and then I printed it again to get more black shirts. And so I did the black and the white shirts with that. But anyway, my point is, you never know where your journey is going to take you. You never know, where your ideas are going to come from. You never know, what you're going to have access to at any given point in time. So the best you can do is just roll with the punches, man. Like, take what's given. Take every opportunity. You just have to be ready. Like, I'm ready. I'm ready for any opportunity that I expose myself to. Within my community, I travel a certain amount. I deal with a certain amount of people. I expose myself to a certain amount of people, and the information, that I consume is all to prepare me for where I want to be. And I'll show you guys later on, especially through this YouTube series. I mean, I have plenty of Facebook content that will show you. I have my whole vision board. I have my, my affirmation set up. I have my whole little, system of the process that I'm going through and learning. Again, being the E-flunky means that, for those of you who don't understand what E-flunky means, E-flunky is nothing more. I need to stop saying that because that sounds like negative. E-flunky is the process of the entrepreneurial flunky. That means, if you look up the word flunky, by definition, it means the footman, a footman, somebody who goes and does the footwork, somebody who is a servant to in many cases, like a master or a overhead or a manager or a whatever it is. I am your servant. I am the person who has been through all of this stuff as an entrepreneur to kind of, show you guys and tell you guys what it's about and what I've been through, as I'm going through the process. And that's what E-flunky means. The E-flunky, the entrepreneurial flunky. That's what E-flunky stands for. So with that being said, I hope that I can be of service to you guys. And in turn, you guys feel free to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, because there's going to be a lot more content, anything from the ebook club, the entrepreneurial book club that I have from the website. I have plenty of books, recommended reads up there that you can get into. Now I'm working on a program right now. It's the PPS 100. program that I'm trying to develop, which is, trying to get you from 0 to 100 as an entrepreneur, and kind of get you going and kind of keep you motivated with the stuff that I'm doing. And also, I've been trying to develop some online tutoring stuff as well, things that are going to help you more specifically with, what corners to take, and what to expect when something, happens, or how to put yourself in a better position, a more beneficial position. Anything from, having, I forget what the 401k. I'm losing my mind here. But if you're working for yourself, how you can go about establishing a 401k for your business or for yourself, and or doing like a Roth IRA and starting something like that, and trying to max it out, trying to save money there, and trying to use that money and reutilize that as taking a loan out through yourself, and et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot that goes into it, but you can all see something that seems so simple as a t-shirt company has really catapulted me in a direction to learn a lot more about reaching success and being successful. And I didn't expect half of it. I didn't expect to learn half of the stuff that I do today. And another thing too is I don't only do the t-shirts and graphic design stuff and the writing and all that stuff. I also have been doing construction for most of my life. I've been working with my hands and building things. You can see these little worn out mitts that I got going on here. I've been doing that stuff. I've been working with my hands, so I'm no stranger to hard work, best believe. And I have my own construction. Well, it's not quite a construction company. I would call it a remodeling company, because I don't know if I want to take that step into going to like getting my GCL and GSL, whatever, all that stuff. But for now, I do like small renovations and a lot of cosmetic work for homes and stuff like that. And that's another business that I do personally, just on my own. And you might see some of that stuff on the channel as well, because that's some of the other stuff that I kind of, in many ways, I kind of split myself up, and it's not good. But that's also one of the things that being transparent is all about. Is sometimes I get a little worn out. Not only that, but I also have a big family that needs my attention as well, and a significant other that also needs my attention. So I'm very much divided as far as my attention and my energy goes. So that's why sometimes it could be a little hard to maintain this this social media presence, is because I do have a lot going on, and if I can't do it, then I'm going to eventually meet somebody who can help me in that process of doing it. So you might see me developing eFlunky that's another thing. eFlunky, this is the online presence that I have as an entrepreneur. I have eFlunky, which helps me better organize my strategies, and I want to be able to write that book one day, and I want to be able to come up with that success program and all that stuff. And this is part of the way that I'm taking that journey, is just getting more online exposure and seeing what people are vibing to and what they expect and whatnot. So the shirt thing was one step in that direction. And all these shirts that I'm showing you, I should be telling you, but I'm not going to tell you the hashtag codes, because that's where you guys need to do your footwork. You have to go to the eFlunky, and trust me, when you log onto there's not going to be any prompts for you to sign in and do all that stuff. I'm very transparent when it comes down to that. At least I'm not at that level yet where I'm asking for information from your behalf and all that stuff. The only information that I will ask of you is the mailing information, but that's something that we most likely can take care of through the what is it called? Through the secure checkout at my SquareUp account. So feel free to go onto the eFlunky.com and click or tick the Fun Fart Shop navigation. I don't even know what to call it, because it doesn't really look like a button. It just looks like words at the top. So either way, it's at the top of the page. Click Fun Fart Shop, and it's going to take you to the actual Fun Fart checkout, and you can check out all the codes and all that stuff, and then take one of those codes and just apply it here. And then for the first 20 people, that was supposed to access this video and leave comments of those hashtag codes, will get a shirt. Now with that, I need to know where to ship it to. So anywhere within the United States, that's part of the agreement. And anywhere that I can get. And again, being a small-time entrepreneur is, I'm not going to pay $100 to ship a $20 or $25 shirt. So that's just what it is, right? So again, part of this process is setting up my online store. And if it doesn't work this way, I'm going to have to find a more efficient way to access those types of things. But for now, I'm Alex. Thanks everyone for tuning in or watching this video. And this is eFlunky, the eFlunky Show. I'm Alex, your host, and I'll see you soon.